what is the general teleological purpose of the discipline?
The point of alchemy was, in order, as I mentioned before, to learn to refine oneself, but also to know oneself. It's often overlooked because we lead such hasty and fast-paced lives that a lot of us in this day and age do not know ourselves. We do not understand ourselves, and it is rare people these days take the time and they really look inside themselves. They pause and they ask themselves questions. They figure out how they feel, why they feel, and how that might impact the course of their life and even the people around themselves. The point of alchemy was to help a person through better understanding the reality and the nature of the reality around themselves to understand themselves, and through that to better master and manipulate their own selves to become and be who and what they felt they needed and wanted to be.
I see, thank you. So would it be fair to say that alchemy is primarily a system of personal development, personal cultivation, and almost achieving some kind of enlightenment or apotheosis? Is that like the ultimate goal is to perfect the self?
That would be a fair synopsis of it, because the point of it, though it is a never-ending staircase, is to always work on oneself. And when one has that, there is really no limit to what they can achieve, what they can learn, and what they can do, not only for themselves, but for others as well.
I see. So let's say that someone, a young man or woman, perhaps, maybe 20 years old or something, said, I think there's something to this alchemy thing. I want to study alchemy. I want to learn. What would be your advice to that person who's just brand new? Like, what is their first step to get into this like ancient, mysterious practice?
It is a wonderful question. It has been decades since I myself first began learning it, and I remember having to go through many different websites, many different very old books, which back then made very little, if any, sense to me because they're written in a Shakespearean manner, which eventually you'll find to be second nature, but the first time you read such a book, it is not so easy. And the best place, I would say, is natural, is for a person to approach it through the seven sacred metals: lead, tin, silver, mercury, iron, copper, and gold. It may not seem like these would have a lot to do with the individual, but each of these metals reflect an aspect of our own nature and a side to ourselves. And by working through the nature of the metal and understanding it as well as how it corresponds to us, we can better come to understand ourselves and therefore begin to work through the problems we want to work through, and then come to know ourselves a little bit more with each and every question we resolve.
Fascinating. So to what extent does alchemy necessarily require physical materials? Is alchemy something that can be done only with knowledge and a book, so to speak? Or is this something you really require, alembics and calcinators and retorts and the different, alchemical tools, whatever you call them? Like, do you need a laboratory to do alchemy?
At one point in time, believe it or not, it was encouraged by practicing alchemists to do such a thing. But in this day and age, I would not advise people to really go out on a limb and do such a thing, since not only do we have such an interconnected world with a plethora of information and doctrines about all those subjects, but it's also dangerous to do actual chemistry and metallurgy itself if a person is not well versed in them. So thankfully, one does not need any of those devices to practice and study alchemy. Now, there are people that push the art to the point they want to know the physical side of it, but in this day and age, as I mentioned, one could literally go to chemistry and alchemy, not now, I apologize, chemistry as well as metallurgy, to analyze those things even down to a molecular level, which, as we know, our ancestors had little or no insight into that degree of it.